No?
So it's something every computer check history, but it's probably $90 if you need that, or if you don't.
I've been on that baby for the last 8 months of what we've done.
Highly recommended. I looked at them as I was leaving the house and I was like, I've got another one. It's on this side, so. Try, you can try.
Yeah.
You can bejewel the vision, I suppose. Well, we have.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay. You want to make it, I was just gonna. Yeah. Oh, no, I don't.
Okay.
Sorry.
That's good enough, but you would say. I've been trying to reach him. I've been trying. I thought he was, but.
Yeah, the dinner's happening now, so yeah.
Happy birthday, Spencer. He's a solid head.
I am calling to order this regular meeting of Town of Gibsons Council on January 23rd, 2024 it's at 7:03 p.m. And our first item is to approve the agenda. Moved by Councillor Kroll, seconded by Councillor DeAndrade. All those in favor? That motion carries. And we need to adopt the minutes of our last regular council meeting, December 5th, 2023, moved by Councillor DeAndrade, seconded by Councillor Kroll. All those in favor? That motion carries. And we have committee reports, which is 4.1. We've got three motions coming out of committee. We'll deal with them one by one. The first one moved by Councillor Kroll, Complete Communities Grant. Need a seconder for that. Seconded by Councillor Thompson. Any discussion on this? We've already discussed these three items, so all those in favor? That motion carries. 4.1.3, 2024 staffing requests. We have here, moved by Councillor Kroll, seconded by Councillor DeAndrade. All those in favor? That motion carries. 4.1.4, as written, which is the Youth Outreach Services Agreement. Moved by Counselor DeAndrade, seconded by Counselor Kroll. Any discussion? All those in favor? That motion carries. And now to administration reports. We have a report from our natural asset technician, which is a review of Mount BC timber sales on Mount Elphinstone South Watershed assessment, which was this is a review of a report that we received as a council from BCTS and their consultant last year. I don't know if do you want to speak to this at all and summarize it? I think we're open for questions, and yeah, I want to see if council has questions on this report. I think there are recommendations at the end too, right? Which we can, yeah, Councillor DeAndrade.
Mayor, I don't really have a question, but I just want to, first of all, commend the town for their relationship building with the SCCA and the Elphinstone Community Association, and also for their responsible conduct to engage both urban systems and waterline. I think I was really pleased to see their review and their input on the report with the goal to protect our watershed values. And I would like to move the recommendation.
Okay, yeah, we can further discuss as part of the motion too. Is there a seconder for that motion? Seconded by Councillor Kroll. Is there any further discussion on this matter? Which so this is moving the and are those recommendations worded? I'm just looking for the corporate officer, and yeah, I've seen them. I just want to make sure that.
I think I would just like to read it back just to be sure.
Yeah.
That the findings with the Ministry of Forest with the inclusion of the following considerations, that BCTS be directed to conduct further research and consideration to develop cut block plans and to share that information with stakeholders in the watershed, that logging activity approvals occur in stages, with each stage requiring a comprehensive monitoring and adaptive management program, that be recommended, that it be proposed that the installation of a shallow groundwater monitoring well network by BCTS within and down slope of the planned development, that those be recommended, that those review findings be shared.
Okay. Yeah, I'd just like to further comment, yeah, that this is really great input that we've received from these basically peer review consultants. They're really helpful getting some actual hydrogeology expertise onto this as well, which the town took the lead in doing because BCTS didn't and acknowledged that they didn't know. They acknowledged right up front that they had no hydrogeology component of their review. So I think this is really helpful, and I definitely support these recommendations. And furthermore, somewhat connected to this, but also separate, that the town's continuing work on seeking a Water Sustainability Act designation for to protect our recharge area. Councillor Kroll?
Thank you, Mayor White. Just sort of further to what Councillor DeAndrade was saying, I would just like to thank Michelle Lewis for taking what was a massive report from the two peer reviews and sort of synthesizing it to something that was a little less, or certainly more manageable than the 400 pages, I think it was, that you had to go through and synthesize for this. So I really appreciate, what you were able to do. And I just hope that, what has been brought forward in these recommendations is taken to heart by BC Timber Sales, because, it is a real eye-opener to the potential damage that can be done, so easily. So totally support these recommendations.
Any other discussion at this motion? Seeing none, I'll ask that all those in favor raise their hands. All those opposed, the motion carries unanimously. I didn't need to say all those opposed, but I'm missing somebody, so it's confusing. Now we're on to item 5.2, which is 702 Gibsons Way, OCP amendment and zoning amendment. We have our planner. I don't know if is there a presentation on this? Okay.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, can I?
Go ahead.
Okay, so the town has received a development proposal at 702 Gibsons Way to demolish the existing single-family home and replace it with 5 single-family homes, which would be accessed from a shared driveway. And in order to move this proposal forward, 3 applications have been submitted. We've got an OCP amendment, a zoning amendment, and a development permit for form and character. Now, as mentioned in the staff report, there have been 3 previous development proposals over the last 5 years, none of which have come into fruition due to challenges that the site has presented. And this includes the narrow 15-metre width of the lot, the 6-metre fire access which is required, and then the town's parking requirements. Now, the site is located on the north side of Gibsons Way, between Crucial and Weingart Roads. To the east, we have Walt's Towing Business, and then there's a vacant commercial lot to the west. The proposal looks to provide 5 3-story, 3-bedroom homes, each with 2 parking spaces. And the development would be a strata complex, and as per the fire department's request, each unit would be sprinklered. Now, the OCP, which you can see on the left-hand side, designates the property as medium-density residential, which permits townhouses and apartments with an FSR of 0.7 to 1.2. The zoning, which you can see on the right, is single-family, 2-family residential zone 3, or R3. And now this zone doesn't align with the OCP's vision for the area. Now, when we look at the medium density residential description, there are 2 density calculations, an FSR of 0.7 to a maximum of 1.2, and then the generally between 40 to 70 units per hectare. So when we calculate the density of the subject lot, the FSR gives us a range inside of the habitable area of the building. And for this lot, it's asking for approximately 820 square meters to 1,400 square meters of gross floor area. So that means area that's just habitable and doesn't include attached garages, attic spaces, storage areas, that type of thing. And then it talks about being generally 4 to 8 units on the lot. So this proposal provides 5 units, which is okay with the generally 4 to 8 units, but it has a much lower gross floor area for the site at 605 square meters, or an FSR of 0.53. Now, as the proposal doesn't meet the intent of the medium density residential designation for density or housing type, because we're looking at single family and not apartments or townhouses, there are 3 items that have to be addressed in the OCP amendment. We have to change the land use designation from medium density to low density residential 1, and that would reconcile the single family housing type. We'd also have to alter the low density residential 1 description to remove the minimum FSR, just providing a maximum FSR, and then removing the generally 20 to 25 units per hectare. You can see here. And this would reconcile the lower density, and that would be in line with the new provincial SMU mandates, which the town would eventually need to introduce. The third change would be to change the development permit area from DPA 4 to DPA 8. Now, the property would also be required to rezone from R3 to likely a new residential cluster zone. Now, the town is also looking to create a lane between Hillcrest and Gibsons Way. You can see on this map, a general alignment is shown in blue. Now, this lane would be created through rezonings or subdivisions with road dedications or right-of-ways, and is currently intermittent. So if you look at the orange, that's what we have now in terms of road dedications or right-of-ways for future lane access. So if we create a rear lane, then this can help the area densify more easily, and it also improves the active transportation network with a new link. So the property owner would be requested to provide a 5-meter right-of-way for future lane access at the rear of the property on condition of development. Now, there are 3 options that have been provided to council, and these can be found on page 15 and 16 of the staff report. We've got option 1, which is to direct staff to draft amendments to the OCP and the zoning bylaw. We have option 2, which requests a revision to the proposal to align with the intent of the medium density residential land use more closely. And under that, there are 2 options in the staff report. And then option 3 is to deny the proposal. Now, option 2 is staff's recommendation. The lot is very narrow and it's very difficult to develop to the OCP's intention without consolidating with adjacent lots. And option 2 provides direction and clarity to the applicant on what council would like to see from a revised application. Thank you.
Okay, I will look to council for questions. The obvious question for me is that I see option 2, but there are 2 different options within option 2. So could you elaborate on that a bit?
I can.
Which one is the actual, yeah. And do they both meet the OCP? One mentions the OCP, one doesn't.
Okay, so I do have Valeria, who is the applicant in the audience today. So when we took this application to the ADP a couple of weeks ago, there was support to try and create more density on the lot. And so the recommendation was that to try and add more units. So the applicant provided kind of 2 options that could work towards aligning more with the OCP's intent, but it wouldn't meet it entirely. So one of them was to create a 6th unit and essentially move each of the buildings together so they would be more of a townhouse form rather than be separate. So there wouldn't be setbacks between each unit. And then the second one was to add units underneath. So there'll be, I believe, 8 units. Was that correct? Yes, 8 units instead of the 5 that we have for the proposal that's on the table right now. 6, which would be the alternate proposal number 1, or 8 units for the alternate proposal number 2.
Okay. Yeah, I'm curious what Councillor Kroll's thoughts on that may be from the context of the ADP. We're hoping that, the ADP's comments are really helpful. And I really appreciate the new format of the minutes too. That's excellent and really helpful. So we do want to, and I can see the members put a lot of thought into it, and there's a lot of good insight in what they've shared. So I do want to, I'm hopeful that whatever changes we make are also seen as positive by the ADP, or whatever changes we request. I see Councillor Thompson has a question, so I'm going to Councillor Thompson.
Thank you, Mayor. With respect to option 2 and the 2 options which are presented there that we just discussed, the con of possibly overlooking to neighborhood lots, what is the height differentiation between those 2 alternative proposals, going from the medium density to townhouse apartment?
Through you, Mr. Mayor.
Staff, yeah.
So right now we don't have drawings for the alternate proposals, but essentially the FSR is so large for this lot, you're going to be looking at least 3 stories on that site.
Right.
So it wouldn't necessarily change. Right now the proposal that you have is for 3 stories, and it would remain 3 stories.
Okay.
Councillor Kroll.
Thank you, Mayor White. It was interesting we have two new members on the ADP, and I think the biggest concern, and everyone recognized the challenges of this property, but some of the points, and I think they were very valid, was we are in this sort of housing crunch, so why would we build less on a property than would be permitted? But the other thing in bringing the units together, which I think was a very valid point, was you're ostensibly reducing the cost of building because you're eliminating outside walls, which hopefully would make these units a little more attainable to people trying to buy into the market. So that was one of the pluses of bringing the units together as opposed to individual. We didn't deal with form and character at all because the general consensus was that the project should come back in a new iteration, and at that point, the form and character would be dealt with. So we didn't even address form and character. But, there are some, everyone recognized the challenges of this property, and it's, but getting a little more density out of it and reducing the building cost to make these more attainable to first-time buyers, I think could be a very attractive point.
Yeah, that's essentially summarizes what I agree with coming out of the ADP as well, and what I would like to see this development come back as. I guess the question is that there's a lot of options here and sub options in order to get there. I'm wondering if maybe we should just even consider option 2 on page 39 in the bold. Rather than get into detail about, because I'm not sure. I mean, I think it can be up to the applicant to work with planning to try to meet that vision that we have in the OCP and that the ADP supports, and I think our council supports, is of trying to have some density in this neighborhood and trying to have, especially for more attainable housing too. This is an area that, and I know that this property owner has tried that before, and it's been very challenging. But that's what I hope we continue to try to strive for here. Councillor DeAndrade.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I agree. I fully agree with the ADP feedback to maintain the current land use. And they provide very good, I was really impressed with this report because they provide really tangible solutions and not one single solution. They talk about possibility of 2 triplexes instead of 2, or 3 duplexes, and they made important points that there's no frontage of this. But overall, and then there's even a question of parking requirements, and I think due to the situation of this lot, I think it's feasible to change the current requirements. So I'm looking forward to see this proposal come back. I hope the developer is willing to do, because I think there's a great possibilities there. And so, yeah, I agree. So option 2 and the details maybe they can work with.
Okay, do you, Councillor DeAndrade, do you want to move that? And that would be the option 2 in the language in bold there, which is a request revision to the proposal to align with the intent of the medium density residential land use designation more closely. Seconded by Councillor Kroll, and that provides the intent of choosing that one, as it provides a little more flexibility to meet especially what I think that, I mean, I can't do better than what the comments of the ADP has already articulated. So to try to meet those concerns. So any discussion? Any further discussion? All those in favor? That motion carries. Thank you, planner. And now we're on on to item 5.3, which is zoning amendment to allow mixed-use commercial residential development at 1057 Gibsons Way. And we are, this is the first time this has come to council in any way. So it's not an immediate first reading or anything. It's more a chance to hear about this development. And the developer is looking for some direction, I understand, directly from council. So the developer is ready to present, I think, to start this item. And Daniel Lopez is here, representing the developer. Oh, and we've got Matt. Matt is on Zoom. Hi, how's it going?
Hi, good evening. Good, thanks, Mayor White. Good to see you again.
Is the presentation up?
Sorry, through you, Mayor. We're just trying to get his presentation up.
Okay. The presentation is in the back of Town Hall somewhere? Or
Okay, perfect.
okay, looks like we got it.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, staff, and residents of Town of Gibsons. My name is Daniel Lopez. I'm the development manager for this project with PCRE. So PCRE, we're based out of Vancouver, but we're mostly active on Vancouver Island. And after 3 years of a lot of hard work with our consultants, who are actually all local, by the way, and a lot of very valuable guidance from staff, we're very grateful and excited for this opportunity to have our project considered tonight, finally. We know municipalities all over BC really struggling and in dire need of housing for people in all stages of their lives, like young people, people growing families, people retiring, so in every single stage. And we really need to acknowledge that our industry is it's a challenging time with interest rates and inflation to make these projects work. But at the same time, we're exploring all our options in terms of CMHC programs or whatever we can access to make it happen. And yeah, we're very optimistic about this project due to its location here in Gibsons. And we hope to bring it to fruition and to really make a difference in terms of housing here in Gibsons. And so I only have a very few minutes, so I'm going to keep it brief. And so for context, the site is located at the corner here of Pratt and Gibsons Way, southeast corner, just kitty corner from Gibsons Park Plaza. And so we think if there's ever going to be a good location for some density in town, this is the perfect location. You know, there's a whole array of services and shopping nearby that future residents can do within walking distance, and we think that's ideal for a project of this nature. And since the beginning, not only is our objective to bring more housing, but to really bring some vibrancy into this area of town. And we do that by really making sure that our commercial tenants have a very successful future here, and that residential tenants have a really enjoyable experience. Also, given the adjacency to the highway, to the bus stop, to biking infrastructure, we think this is like an ideal kind of base camp location for people that want to have this as their starting point for the remaining beauty and wilderness in the Sunshine Coast, but also have like a semi-urban lifestyle at the same time that they can enjoy. In terms of some features you can see here, we will achieve a minimum of PCBC Step 3 energy efficiency code, fully electric buildings. We are retaining several mature trees around the site where we can, and using drought-resistant landscaping and native landscaping as well. So the main topic today is land use. Our proposed amendment to our zoning, given the very outdated C5 zoning that we kind of inherited from SCRD when this property kind of came over into Gibsons. And so we want to have that updated, hopefully into a CD zone where we can accommodate 1.1 parking ratio per unit, which nowadays is quite typical in developments of this nature, to be able to support the height that we need for the 5 stories in each of the 2 buildings, and to incorporate some studios that we think, they're not the typical studios that you've seen just open floor plan. They're more of a junior 1-bed experience, which I think could work very well here. And basically the main point here is that we're in keeping with OCP and the goals. So we selected this sentence that kind of really summarizes why we're hitting all those points that we want to see in a project like this to really bring some activity in the area and a lot of housing units in the benefit of the community. In terms of a quick overview of the site, we have 2 buildings, one horizontal to Gibsons Way, one perpendicular, and this was to make it as efficient as possible, and also using the topography of the site. And to quickly summarize, we have 141 residential units proposed, ranging from studios, sort of in the 500 square feet, to about 900 square foot 2 bedrooms. We're proposing 3 commercial units in the northwest corner of Building A, 3 live-work units in the east side of Building A at the front, and 2 live-work units at the front of Building A. In total, this yields about 160 parking ratio, like we said, at 1.1 per unit, and a 19 commercial stalls, 2.1 per thousand, which from our studies and transportation studies seems like the sweet spot for the market and for a project like this. Other little features, we're gonna have provisions for EVs, for e-bikes, including some outlets and some oversized stalls, and amenities like social rooms, for the birthday parties, gym, and a couple of dog areas. It's a nice little feature that people don't often think about, but that's where some of the dog owners can socialize. This slide is just a quick glance at how the parking infrastructure works. Building A, 1 level of underground, Building B, 2 levels, and kind of hitting that right balance of underground and above ground, servicing the residents and also the commercial tenants so that they can be successful. We wanted to show this slide as an example of live-work floor plan. On the left-hand side, you can see a layout of our commercial space, and on the right-hand side, what an apartment would look like upstairs. And just as an example, I had a conversation with a dentist who told me, I would love to be able to have practice downstairs and to be able to house my staff upstairs. Like, we keep hearing in informal conversations that for businesses, it's really their main issue to find housing for their staff. So we thought it was important to show one of these examples. And even though today is about land use, wanted to quickly show a sneak peek of what our concept could look like in terms of some renderings. This is a view from Gibsons Way, with the live, work, and commercial at the front, residential behind and above. This is a view from the intersection Pratt and Gibsons Way at the corner. This one to sort of see the interplay between live, work at the front and residential at the back and above. A view sort of at the back, how we were using the grades to our advantage to access the parking downstairs and the parkade. Another shot from Gibsons Way of the live-work units at the front. Finally, how a potential amenity space could look like with portion outdoor and portion indoor. So yeah, this is a sneak peek, and thanks for your attention and your consideration.
Thank you. I'm a little distracted by people walking around and outside there. We should probably just, maybe they're looking to come in. I was only distracted at the very end there. I'll look to council for, actually, should we go to, let's go to staff first, and then we can have some questions, open to questions. So, yeah.
Mayor. Yeah, I do have sorry, now I'm distracted.
Okay.
A few slides to introduce the planning context, if that's helpful to you.
Great.
Yeah, so in follow-up to Daniel's introduction, I just have 7 slides, and that introduces the decision that council has tonight. The application is considering a zoning amendment, as Daniel mentioned, for the property, and this is to allow the proposed development. In considering the change of zoning, we always look first to the official community plan to understand if the proposal is consistent with land uses that are envisaged for the property. The land use in the official community plan designates the property as mixed-use commercial. That's shown here in red on the land use plan, and it spans most of the Gibsons Way corridor between North Road and Pratt Road. OCP policies offer that the street frontages in the mixed-use commercial area are to be activated with commercial uses and supported by higher density residential development above, behind, and surrounding the commercial uses. The property's current zoning is C5 per the Sunshine Coast Regional District's zoning bylaw 310, which I think has since been repealed. So this is an obsolete zone. And it is shown on the map with black hatching. The zonings for this property and the neighboring lots has been unchanged since the town of Gibson's municipal boundary was expanded in 2009, and so is due for an update to be consistent with the OCP. Properties within the mixed-use commercial land use designation in Upper Gibsons have typically been developed with a C1 zoning, as you can see in the red on the land use map. The staff report therefore reviews the proposal in relation to the C1 zone as a best reference. The review outlined in detail in the staff report finds that the proposal is largely consistent with the C1 zone, except that the proposed building height, as Daniel mentioned, is higher than the zone currently allows, and that some residential units are ground-oriented behind the commercial uses rather than strictly above the ground floor, as required in the C1 zone. Finally, the parking is reduced in relation to the zoning bylaw with support of a parking study submitted by the applicants. So given that the proposal includes 146 residential units, the report also addresses the recent housing needs assessment report and housing strategy. And the proposal has the potential to alleviate the needs staff found in 4 key areas of housing need that are identified in the report. These include rental housing, affordable housing, given that higher density residential development tends to be more affordable to build and therefore to afford as well. Special needs housing, given smaller unit sizes and the location near amenities and public transit. And finally, housing for seniors, whether because it's smaller, more affordable units, which seniors tend to desire, rather than single-family dwellings, or housing with supports for aging in place, which has been noted by the applicants as an option for the site. The report also identifies an opportunity with this zoning consideration to implement a recommended action in the housing strategy, and that is to secure a portion of rental tenure or affordable or attainable homeownership units, is the wording used in the action strategy, through a height bonus in the zone. This would require, if implemented through this project, it would require the development to secure those units as well. I've added a slide to this presentation this morning, thanks to a flag by the mayor, that the public hearing requirements have again changed through provincial legislation updates. And so the section of the staff report discussing council discretion to hold a public hearing for the zoning amendment is actually no longer valid. And instead, the town is prohibited from holding a public hearing for a zoning amendment that permits residential development that's consistent with the OCP. And so staff would notify the public accordingly and give tentatively, that is giving public notice of first reading of the bylaw once it's drafted, but we'll review the legislation before doing that. And this is the final slide, a brief outline of the options that we've presented to council in pages 21 to 23 of the report. And these include option 1, directing staff to draft a zone that accommodates the development as proposed. Option 2 is to proceed with drafting a zone with a height bonus such that added height in the zone is tied to requirements to secure rental tenure or affordable housing units in the buildings. Option 3 is to include additional conditions to the rezoning or flag desired changes that council might have to the proposal before proceeding. For example, staff had noted no outdoor amenity space that might be desirable on the site. And finally, I should note, some of these can be addressed also through the development permit review, possibly. Finally, option 4 would be to reject the zoning amendment, though given the obsolete zoning currently in place, staff would not recommend this option. So that's all I have, but I'm happy to address questions. And we've got Daniel and also, I believe, Matt and Kate from the team who are online and available.
Okay, yeah, so we can address through the mayor, address questions to either our staff or the development team. I saw Councillor Kroll's hand first.
Thank you, Mayor White. I think this is really quite an exciting concept that's been presented to us. A couple of things that I would like to see, because I like the unit size. Going back to a previous incarnation of my life doing property management, I found 1 and 2 bedroom rental units were greatly in demand. The big problem was larger units, so I'm glad to see the unit size. Something I would almost like to see is perhaps an option for car share on the site to reduce the amount of parking, to be able to increase more outside amenity space. And because we have this huge need of seniors looking to downsize, the unit sizes are great, but what I would also like to see would be some more accessible parking stalls. If someone either rents a unit or moves into, depending on whether these are strata titled or rental, I would love to see some rental, just an aside. But being able to age in place is important, and being able to have accessible spots more would, I think, be beneficial. The location is ideal. You're close to the clinic, you're close to shopping, you're on bus routes. So I would, as I said, I would, be happy to see less parking, more accessible parking. And something we did on another project was to put 2 accessible parking stalls side by side with a common lane, so you can increase the amount of accessible parking, but not, double the space required. But I think it's a really exciting project, and I look forward to seeing it move forward.
Thank you, Councillor Kroll. I'd certainly echo the openness, I think, that council has of looking at alternative transportation options like car share, as we've shown in previous developments, kind of in lieu of our parking bylaw requirements, or our zoning bylaw requirements that have parking. Councillor DeAndrade's next.
Thank you, Mayor. I have a few questions. This one is for staff. I know the report talks about maybe the SCRD zone being obsolete, but zone 310 was amended to 722, and they still have C5. So I don't understand, which is 11 meters and 50% coverage. So I'm just trying to understand why it was decided that was obsolete.
Go ahead.
Through you, Mayor. Yeah, I suppose the key piece of the obsoleteness is that the lot is within the town, so it's referencing the zoning designation was set by the SCRD. We haven't put our own zone that reflects our OCP, long range vision.
The fact that we can't use the SCRD zone, but what would happen if a developer wanted to just go ahead and build according to current zoning when it's SCRD zoning?
Yeah, it's SCR through the mayor. It's SCRD zoning from a bylaw that has been repealed, but it's grandparented essentially. So the zone runs with the land until it's changed. And so right now it's referencing a zone from a zoning bylaw that's no longer in place. The SCRD has updated their zoning bylaw, but it won't include this property because it's not within their jurisdiction.
And essentially, if unlike most situations in town where if somebody could have zoning that's not meeting the OCPE, they could still zone their single-family lot with or build on that based on their current zone. This case, you wouldn't be able to build at all, really, if it's because the zoning is with the SCRD. Is that
It's
my
complicated.
understanding? Yeah.
But they would be
Kind of
stuck with-
academic, but I mean, we're curious. Yeah.
Yeah, they would be stuck with the SCRD zone. So whatever the uses are allowed under the C5 zone, they would be
Right.
stuck with that.
And we would be stuck with
And we
trying
would
to, work with a zone that we never designed or approved in the first place. But yeah, interesting. Okay, Councillor Thompson, and I know you've got more questions.
Yeah. Thank you, Mayor. Can you hear me okay? Did I come off mute? Sorry. This is a great spot for this. And I appreciate as well all the different plans that were included from the transportation, shadow studies, all of that. So it does help give a lot of information prior to the meeting. So thank you for that. A couple of things. Where there is discussion around outdoor space being provided in the site plan, and that wasn't included. Can you speak further on that?
That's for staff? Yeah, that was a
Suggestion.
Yeah, thank you, through you. Staff's consideration was that often in a development with a significant number of units, we're looking at who's going to live there and where do they go outside to have if they want to have a backyard type birthday party or go sit in the sun, where do they go? And there's not a lot of town parkland in the neighborhood or adjacent green spaces. So the thought was that it could be beneficial to have a play space or outdoor space for residents to use on site.
That makes a lot of sense.
Councillor DeAndrade, and then I'll go to Councillor Kroll.
Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate the fact that, beside what other councillors said, the fact that this project provided a gym and 2 amenity rooms, because I'm always concerned when you have too many people live in one single area with sustainable healthy living, right? How do you calculate the size of amenity rooms? I know usually the calculation, as far as I understand, is 1 square meter per person, something like that. But in this case, you cannot necessarily double because you have studios, single bedroom. So how do you calculate the size? Because when you talk about birthday parties, right, you have people bring gas and so on.
Yeah, so if I may respond.
Could you use the mic just so that, you could just stay up here.
It's not an exact science. I would say that we usually base it on experience from our other projects and the kind of amenity sizes that are successful in our other projects. So it's more based on that, but I don't know if you would disagree, Matt.
Sorry. Hi, good evening. No, I think that's exactly what it is. I think we are, judging this from experience. We've built a number of multifamily developments that kind of these numbers are consistent, with what we think we need. Because I think it's interesting, depends on, what building we're talking about and what area we're in. But we have buildings where we build similar amount of amenity space that never gets used. And we have areas where it's heavily used. So when we designed this building, we kind of looked at the average across those and always kind of leaning towards an amenity space that would be used more. And I think we have a pretty, especially for a rental project, quite a generous amount of amenity space. Because typically, in our experience, we've seen better amenities in condo projects where developers can generally get paid, are getting paid for that space. And so for a rental project, especially on the coast, we think it meets kind of what's consistent in our other rental projects.
Councillor Kroll.
Thank you. This is just sort of, I noticed I believe it was in the staff presentation, the water for this project was going to be brought down Seacott, which and I guess maybe it's a question for the Director of Infrastructure who isn't with us. He was hiding.
That's what you get when you show up in the audience. So might get called.
To you, Mr. Mayor, I'm going to have to ask you to repeat the question.
I noticed in the report that the water for this project is, it appeared that there was a water line being brought down Seacott to service this project.
Do you mean, sorry, through the mayor, Seaview?
Neither one of them make much sense to me, but I'll look to the developer.
As far as I know, we'd have to extend the water connection from Seamount Way.
Seamount, okay.
Across Gibsons Way.
Okay.
That's what our preliminary civil analysis yielded.
What I just wanted to circle back on, a couple of years ago, we had a project from Kenmac Automotive. They were going to put in a fairly large warehouse to eliminate sort of rather ugly outside yard. And the project got nixed because the water line servicing the property wouldn't support sprinklering. And I just thought I would sort of flag it with this project that there is an opportunity for Kenmac to perhaps revisit their project because of more attainable water for their project would be brought into the area.
Okay. Maybe premature right now, but yeah, perhaps.
Just flagging it because
okay.
It would improve the visual look of that whole area.
If I may, through you, I think probably if I had to speculate, the Kenmac, if they may not have wanted to pay to upsize the service to the individual property, so it's not a matter of having water. There would be water on the water main on the highway, I believe. It may just be a matter of the service to the property may have been undersized. So if there's a service to that building that's existing, it may be a 1-inch service connection. To sprinkler for a warehouse, you may need a 4 or 6-inch service, which could be $40,000 or $50,000 being on the highway. So it may have been just a cost individual to that property rather than servicing within the entire area.
Thank you. Councillor DeAndrade, you have another one?
Thank you, Mayor. I understand that this location is prone to having drainage issues. So will the...
Like everywhere in Gibsons, yeah.
This because of, it's a lowering relationship to... I'm just wondering if a drainage study will be brought up before even first reading, before the design, just considering that drainage may implicate in the change of building design.
Through you, Mayor. Yeah, the site drainage plan would be required as a building permit requirement, and that would be reviewed by our infrastructure department.
At one point in the process?
Well, actually, there's maybe 2 points.
Right.
We have DPA 9, the wellhead protection area currently requires that sort of planning by a professional consultant. And also we'd require it, but each of these are before building permit. Unless, is there anything to add?
They could ask for it before.
Oh, it could be requested ahead of time.
Okay. Kale.
Yeah, I would just like to say that I think this is a really great concept for a project. This is actually a lot that when we had a student consultation last year, students directly pointed to and said that this would be a great spot for like exactly this sort of development, and with the consideration of more height, but with having affordable housing. So I think, yeah, it's a really great development, and I hope to see something happen here.
Do we have more questions from council?
I have kind of a funny question because it really regards like the design of the building. We had previous discussion in council that this town is too brown, and we would like to see more colors. And even though it looks good, but I saw a lot of brown in one of the buildings. I forgot, I think it's B. So I don't know if there's any possibility of incorporating maybe other colors than brown. The blue looks good.
Sure. Councillor Lumley is sending his love right now for that comment. That's a consistent comment from our absent councillor as well. So it's definitely something that the council would look fondly on. Councillor Thompson.
To you, Mayor, my question is regarding the increased pedestrian traffic that would result out of that building and the known safety issues, like the concerns around Gibsons Way and Pratt. If MODI, as suggested by the Infrastructure Services Department, is brought into consideration through the development, when does that happen in the development process that we would know where these needs and concerns would be addressed? How does that work? As far as staging?
Looking to staff for that answer.
Percentage improvements one is. When does that happen?
Sorry, through the mayor, just can you repeat your question? Because there's a few processes or a few steps where the ministry is involved, but then if we're talking about pedestrian improvements on the frontage, that would be part of the building permit stage. But the ministry gets involved in the rezoning process, and they would have to approve the bylaw after third reading. So they do get a referral at the beginning. I'm not sure if that answered the question, though.
Yeah, and there's a referral. Does that answer?
It does exactly. Yep, that by third reading and a zone change, that's when the input from MODI would be brought in again. Thank you.
More questions?
Councillor DeAndretti first, and Councillor Kroll.
Thank you. I didn't see any mention of accessible units, and I think it is a urgent need, I would say, for the town, because we don't have too many places that are necessarily accessible. And the Sunshine Coast even has accessibility committee now to address this issue. So if there is any plan. And then if staff could also go back to the slide that shows the needs that the town have for rental units, and then we can emphasize things that we would really like to see in this development.
Through you,
Look
Mayor.
to staff, yeah.
Yeah, maybe Daniel or Matt, are you able to speak to accessible units, and I can follow up on the other?
I mean, this is, I'd be interested to hear your insights from other similar developments too, and, the demand versus, looking to any one of the three of you can maybe tackle this.
We're happy to consider and look at it.
Staff.
Thank you. I just wanted to add one more piece is, depending on when they submit their application for a building permit, there are going to be changes to the BC Building Code that are going to require a lot more accessible units and accessible change tables for adults and stuff like that, and bathrooms. So it's going to change the design, but I don't know how much, what the ratio is or anything like that, or what the requirements are. We just know it's coming.
Councillor Kroll.
I was going to move option 2
Okay,
on page 22 of the report, page 78 of the agenda.
yeah, thank you, and that's that staff prepare a zoning amendment to accommodate the requested building height for the proposed development at 1057 Gibsons Way as a height bonus conditional on secured rental tenure for the residential units located above the second story. And then there's an optional and that about kind of looking at this amendment more broadly.
All right, okay.
You intend that as well, Councillor?
And we could leave in the and that.
We could include that all in one package? Okay, yeah, and then there's this, and that the amendment be applied to all properties of the C1 zone to incentivize and streamline development of rental apartment housing in the Gibsons Way commercial corridor. So that's the motion we're looking at now. And is there a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Thompson. And yeah, I appreciate the work that staff did to come up with this option, this recommended option. I think it reflects our strategic plan and also what how we're informed by our youth as well as Cale pointed out earlier in future needs for rental housing here in Gibsons, and the opportunity to look at looking at requested building height in exchange for rental tenure, I think is a good path to do so, and logical path to do so. And I appreciate that the developer's already looking at rental here in the proposal. Is there any more discussion on this, Councillor Kroll?
Not so much discussion, but just sort of reflecting back on some of the earlier comments about, taking into consideration the car share, creating a little more outdoor amenity space. To our youth councillor's comment, this is an area where, height, if there wasn't even another half story of height to create a higher density, to create more rental housing, it would even be a plus. If you're putting in an elevator, going another floor doesn't really make a huge difference to the cost of the elevator. But, it's, so I think a lot of the conversation that's been had, I think, are valid points that, we look forward to seeing what comes back.
Okay, other discussion on this motion? Councillor DeAndrade.
I just want a clarification, sorry, because I couldn't find the option too. But when the option talks about secure rental tenure, is it affordable housing implicit here, all sort of rentals, or?
Staff.
Through you, Mayor. Staff's thought was that all of those options could be built in as a way to attain the bonus, and so that would give some flexibility in the development itself.
Yeah, there are senior government opportunities now really pushing affordable housing, and that private developers are eligible to pursue. So I'd strongly encourage the developer to look at that as a way to help secure this rental housing. So the more affordable, the better in our eyes. Any other discussion on the motion? There are some other possible options here that I think Councillor Kroll touched on, but if this covers it, then yeah, okay. All those in favor? The motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any more on this topic and report from council? Okay, seeing none. I think we're ready to move on to bylaws. Oh, no. Yes. Yeah, okay. So we have two, thank you, Daniel. Are you going to catching a ferry now? No. No, okay, okay, good. So we have two bylaws related to Lot 14 Venture Way, for which we had a public hearing earlier today. And there's first a recommendation, 6.1, that the official community plan amendment bylaw number 985-34, 2023 be given third reading. And councillors may want to comment on what, yeah, okay, well, maybe not, maybe or maybe not. I see Councillor Kroll moving that and seconded by Councillor DeAndrade. Is there any discussion on this motion? Councillor DeAndrade?
I just want to, I appreciate the comments made on the public hearing. And I would like just to emphasize that in the past, there has been light industrial that was changed to include residential, and this is just the opposite. So it's pretty much the same area. So I think we are completely conforming with the OCP. So I just want to, and in this regard, I obviously support.
Yeah, and technically we are not, but I think, yeah, practically we are. I mean, that's why we're looking at this OCP amendment, but this is a completely logical place to encourage light industrial zoning. I agree, because we need some of that in our town for employment and the economy, and this is where we have that light industrial area. I also want just to comment on a couple other notes I made. There was a concern about water. We have a lot of water in town, and I would just encourage people who come up with, who are concerned about water, rightfully so. Regionally, we do have concerns, and the town does need to is actively considering supporting the SCRD in their water shortage concerns, but in our own sustainably, because we still make sure that we have enough water to support a build out of at least 10,000, and we're under 5,000 right now. So we do have plenty of water to support this development and others. Yeah, I think when we talked to the developer earlier in this process about some of the light industrial uses they envision here, I think it sounds very, very people friendly, very friendly towards the venture village that's popped up across the street. So I think it's going to be a positive fit in the neighborhood is what I hear and see. Any other comments or discussion? Councillor DeAndrade?
Thank you. This is just a concern that I have with this lot, because there's knotweed. So please, when you contract someone to remove the knotweed, contract someone that really understands what knotweed can do. And the rhizomes and roots can survive underground for over 20 years or more. So it's very important, because you don't want to build anything and in 15 years or even 10 or 20 have huge problems with knotweed. So just in case you're not aware. And the town has a great report on knotweed. Even depending on the species of knotweed, the treatments can be different. So it's a terrible, in this regard, a terrible invasive.
Yeah, we have park staff and planning staff and others in our community with some expertise on knotweed. So it's definitely something to tap into. Any other discussion? So all those in favor of the OCP amendment, third reading? That carries. And now we have the zoning amendment bylaw. The zoning amendment bylaw number 1065-75, 2023 be given third reading. I doubt there's any discussion on this. We've probably, yeah. Okay, seeing none. All those in favor? That motion carries as well. So now we are on to council reports. The reports are as written in pages 147 to 151 of the agenda. Are there any questions from Other members on those reports? So we're on to a motion to close now. And that is that the meeting be closed in accordance with sections 91K, negotiations regarding proposed economic development services, 91E and K, and 92B, negotiations regarding lease amendment and negotiation of a contribution agreement with the province and a local community organization of the community charter. And furthermore, section 90
Public.
Moved by Councillor Kroll, seconded Councillor Andrade. All those in favor? Motion carries.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn. Kroll, Andrade, all those in favor? Thank you so much, Christy, for joining us from your hotel. Unlike people who went out to enjoy.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. I think he sent me a photo. I adored it.
I work on my birthday.
Enjoying luxurious dinners.
I'm sure this would have been more enjoyable than a dinner out.
Well, he would have liked to rant about Scredo, but we skipped that part. He was giving me an earful.